So you've gotten into preparedness, you've started getting food stored, some water put away, you're saving for a rainy day, you're making a preparedness plan, putting together a bug out kit, but you need to start working on your defense. And you've never really gotten into guns or firearms, and you realize that maybe there is a purpose and a need for that in your preparedness plan. Well, today, I'm going to help you buy your first gun. So you can put away all the food, all the water, all the gear, camping stuff, bug out bags, and everything else. But you have to be able to defend that from people who would do you harm and take that away from you. Not only in a bug out situation, but even just in your everyday life. The situations within our country, in many cities, as well as just in general, it's wise for those who are legally able to and willing to defend themselves, to carry a concealed weapon perhaps, or open carry if that's your flavor. But whatever the case may be, there is a place to be ready for, part of the channel, the mantra of the channel is to be ready for anything that comes your way. And having a firearm, having training in that firearm, and being proficient in that firearm can go a long way to helping you be better prepared in everyday life or in some kind of a disaster scenario. Now, I know that many people in the preparedness community are turned off by guns, and this is not a gun channel. I am very much a pro Second Amendment guy, and I love firearms. I've been in firearms since I was a kid. My dad took me shooting. I think I was 8 or 9 years old, and I've been shooting ever since. And I've tried, and I don't want that to be a central theme of this channel. Obviously, I want this to be more of a generic preparedness channel. However, there is something to be said, and we are going to have to touch on it from time to time, because I firmly believe that if you are legally allowed to buy a firearm and you live in a location, United States or other country, where you're able to buy a firearm, I believe that you should do that. And that should be part of your preparedness plan, to have a firearm, have training in that firearm, be proficient and safe with that firearm. I believe that's really, really important. Now, some of you may be saying, well, I've never bought a firearm. How do I do it? What's the best way to do it? Well, I can only speak to the process here in the United States, and it does vary state by state. There are some national standards, but for the most part, it's state by state. So I can't speak to your specific state, but you can go to any local gun store, Cabela's, Bass Pro Shop, Sportsman's Warehouse, somewhere that sells firearms, and they can explain to you the process in your state. Or you can go on your state website, and they'll actually have a section that explains how to do it as well. Now, your state may require background checks. Your state may not. Here in Virginia, it's pretty much an instant process. They do limit you to 1 handgun per month, unless you have a concealed carry weapons permit. And so you have to kind of think about that. But again, if it's your first one, you've never bought one, so you're good to go. Now, you can't be a felon. There are obviously other rules and regulations. In California, for example, only certain kinds of handguns are allowed. Or New Hampshire or Connecticut passed a law recently, and they limited high-capacity magazines as well. And I don't want to get into the pros or cons of different gun laws and red flag laws. That's not what this is about. This is really saying, okay, you, if you're watching this video still, are either already a Second Amendment guy, you're pro firearms in your preparedness plan, in which case I would love your help in this video to watch the thing through the end. If there's anything that's key that I miss, I leave out, please leave a comment below. I would love for this video to be a great tool for anybody who is trying to buy their first firearm. And if you're getting just one to start with, this is hopefully the video for you. And for those of you who this is potentially your first firearm, or you're not quite sure and you're kind of on the fence, I can't say enough to persuade you to make that decision. It ultimately is your decision that you have to make. I highly encourage you to do it. And once you do it, to take that firearm, and the gun store where you buy it from probably has an instructor that they work with, and they will literally hook you up with that instructor, give them contact info, and that guy will teach you firearm basics, etc., etc. Totally recommend you do it, particularly if you're new. And then you'll be a lot more confident and comfortable. And then obviously it takes time and practice to get good at it, but at least you'll know the basics. of firearm safety. You'll know the basics of how to operate the gun that you buy. Now, the next big question is, so you've decided to make the jump. You've decided to jump in. You want to have a firearm because God forbid you ever have to use it. But if you ever do need a firearm, and then that's the moment when you decide I probably should have gotten a firearm, that's when it's too late. So you've made the decision, the wise decision in my opinion, and you're legally allowed to, wherever you are, to buy a firearm. If it's your first one, there's a couple of scenarios, right? So if you're a former military guy or gal and you've gone through basic, you've shot rifles, you've shot pistols, AR platformed rifles, and whatever pistol you had to do in training, you already know, you're familiar with enough. This video, again, leave comments below, help guide everybody else to make a good decision. If you're law enforcement, obviously you have different needs of firearms. If you're former military and you already know how to run stuff, you have different needs. This is for somebody who's brand new to it and doesn't know. Really, you kind of got 3 different classifications of firearms that you're potentially looking at. You have shotguns, which are, you think like the old pump action shotguns or the double barrel shotguns. They have other kinds, obviously, but that's probably what you're thinking when I say shotgun. Those are great weapons. I love shotguns. I have a shotgun or 2. If my wife ever sees this video, it's a shotgun or 2, and that's it. That's all I have. Or if anybody else asks, that's all I have. It's just 1. Actually, I don't even have any shotguns. Well, who am I kidding? I have none of them. Anyway, and they're great weapons. The downside of a shotgun for a general purpose weapon, right? If you're buying one and you only have one gun, then a shotgun is long, right? They have to be at least an 18-inch barrel, plus generally they have a stock, sometimes pistol grip, but usually it's a stock, especially if you want to actually shoot anything accurately with it. So you're looking at a fairly long weapon, which is going to be hard to move and hide if you were to bug out, for example. If you and your family decided to bug out and you're on foot, carrying around a shotgun may be good, but you're going to be carrying something around. Now, what if you don't feel safe and you're going on a road trip, right? Well, carrying a shotgun in the car it's just not really usable. You would want something like a handgun for that. A handgun, like you could conceal, for example, and you could, they have different ways of concealing it. You can conceal it in a bag. You could put it in your waistband, inside of a holster. The shotgun approach, even though I love them, if I were only going to buy one gun, I wouldn't buy a shotgun. Second thing about shotguns that kind of lead me away from them for the one gun concept is the reload speed. They reload very, very slowly. You have to load each shell individually, and that can take a while. Now, the firepower of a shotgun is amazing, and if you chose to go with a shotgun, I couldn't fault you, but I would pass as your first gun. Now, some may say you should buy an AR rifle, and I would say for a beginner, an AR rifle is way too much, because you have to learn a lot about the platform to become, 1, proficient in it, and 2, know how to operate it. And I love them. Don't get me wrong. I love me some ARs, AKs, and I love them all the assault rifle type, battle rifle type things. I love them all. The reason I would steer clear of them, though, is 1, to get a fairly good AR, it's going to be more than a handgun. You can argue with me that you could get a certain brand and it would be a fine price. Fair enough. Leave a comment below. That's fine. Really, when it comes down to it, it's a lot for a new person to pick up an AR as their first and only gun. And again, even if you got like a 10.5-inch AR pistol, which is really confusing if you're brand new here, I won't belabor, I'm really arguing with the gun people right now. Even that can be a lot to try to carry, especially if you're trying to conceal carry, right? This isn't just an end-of-the-world gun. This is I have one gun. It's going to be it's going to be my bedside at night. I might try to carry it if I don't feel safe somewhere. I might, et cetera, right? There's all these things. And to me, that really leads us, and there's a lot of arguments here, but it leads us to a pistol. When it comes to pistols, 2 options that I'm going to show you real quick. One is, by the way, all the guns I'm showing you have already been cleared. There's no ammunition around. Actually, none of them have magazines either. But this is a revolver, right? Like an old school revolver. Like you would, just a Dirty Harry, right? Like, what is it? Do you feel lucky, punk, or whatever it is? Anyway, this is a Smith & Wesson airweight ported 38. Yeah, 38. And I like it, and it's a good gun. The The nice thing about this, which is again a revolver, over something like this, which is, this is a Glock 43. Yeah, this is a 9mm Glock 43. Right? They're similar sizes. They're similar weights. Glock might be a teeny bit heavier, just by the feel of the hand. But they're fairly similar, and they both fire rounds that are comparable. A 38 Special and a 9mm are in the same ballpark from a ballistic standpoint of how the bullet's going to perform when trying to stop a threat. We'll call it that. So 2 options. The advantage of this one is it's super simple to operate, because you literally, there's a little switch right here that you slide forward and you push the cylinder down. Then you can actually put ammunition into the cylinder, close it up, and all you have to do now to fire the gun is pull the trigger. There's nothing else to do. Super simple. The problem is, if you want to reload, you have to push that slide forward, that little lever forward, flick the cylinder down, then you have to pop out the ammunition, those spent casings, the brass that you have left in here, and then you have to reload each one. And they have speed clips and ways to try to speed it up, but nevertheless, it is much slower to reload a revolver than it is to eject a magazine out the bottom of this by pressing this button. You press the button, the magazine pops out, and you pop in a whole new magazine. So it's faster to reload, and they generally hold more. Now, this, for example, holds 5, I believe. Yeah, I haven't touched this gun in a very long time. So, yeah, what do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 5 in this one, and I think this is the Gen 1 43. And I want to say this holds 6 plus 1 or 7 plus 1. But see, I can upsize from this to, say, this big, and that's really not that much bigger. And this holds 15. So 15, 6, 5. There's kind of an old FUD saying that says, you know, all 95% of self-defense incidents happen in under 7 seconds, within 7 yards, and take less than 7 rounds or something like that. Whatever. Great. But I don't know what the threat's going to be. So if I'm going to go to the effort to carry a concealed handgun, for example, to defend myself, or if I want something by my nightstand, I would want more than 5 rounds. I want more than 6 rounds, but I would rather have the 6 rounds that I can reload quicker than the 5 rounds that I can't. There are a couple of exceptions here. This is much harder to operate. So for example, with this, right, that's the magazine reload. This top part's called the slide. And this is the actual frame down here. And so if I'm holding this, in order for me to make a bullet go from the magazine, which I've put in here, to load from the magazine into the chamber, I have to slide back the slide, right? So that's where the bullet would then slide into the barrel to be fired. I have to actually actuate the slide, right? I have to take it and I have to slide it back and I have to let it go. And now there's a bullet in here ready to be fired. For some people, particularly those with, you know, bad arthritis, for example, or very low grip strength, this action of the slide can actually be kind of challenging. So if you're one of those folks who this might be hard to do, when you're at the gun store, try it and see. And then also grab a revolver and see, because maybe the revolver is the right choice for you because it's better than nothing. And revolvers are awesome. Like, I really enjoy revolvers. I just, they're just not my preference. So, but it's something you think about, because if you can't work the slide very well, like you have really small hands, you're really weak, this, you don't have to worry about that at all. It's literally super easy to do. So, something to think about. If you go revolver, there's 2 main rounds that I would recommend you considering. On the revolver side, there's 38 Special, which is basically means it's a certain diameter round, and it has fits inside of a certain gun, right? The other one I would consider is 357 Magnum. Now, 357 is going to be a bigger bullet and make a bigger boom. 38, particularly if you're doing something like you can conceal, like this is kind of small, right? You could conceal this pretty easily if you were going to legally do that. Then you would really, 38 would be a great option. Now, if you're looking more at something, I'm going to holster it. Well, I'd always recommend having a holster with your firearm, even if you stick it in your pocket. Put it into a pocket holster and slide the gun and the holster into your pocket. Same thing with a semi-auto. put the gun in a holster, and then put the holster in your pocket, put the holster in your waistband. This thing you see on TV of them taking a loaded gun and just sticking it in the waistband with no holster, that's a great way to get a negligent or accidental discharge. So we're going to move away from revolvers, but if you go to the gun store, try to do this. If you can do this consistently and it's not hard, then you're good to go. Stick with the semi-auto. Now, there's some size things to consider. So this is a really small little pistol, right? This is a Glock 19 Gen 5, and this is a bigger pistol, right? The benefits of a bigger pistol is that they hold a lot more ammo, and there's a physics problem here. When you take the same bullet, because these shoot the same type of round, the same size round, 9mm, the 9mm coming out of this little gun and the 9mm coming out of this big, heavier gun, this is going to feel much more comfortable to shoot and practice with. Even though this one's going to be easier to carry, and I don't know if you can see that, but here, I'll do it this way because I don't really want to point the guns at myself, even though they're not loaded. But you can see here, this is much wider and bigger. And so this weighs a lot more. And so when you're actually shooting it, the physics is that it's harder to move the weight of this, so it feels more comfortable to shoot. And it's just the reality of how things work. And there are some small guns that are great to shoot, don't get me wrong, I love shooting small guns, but if it comes down to practicing and a general purpose gun, it's not just that first carry gun, right? We're talking about the first general gun that you might put by your bedside, that you're going to put in your bug out bag or in your get home bag or wherever you end up needing that first gun. I want something that is something I can carry, though, because if you go something like this is a Glock 17 Gen 4, and this is again, it shoots the same type of bullet. But see, we've got some very different size guns here, right? And so here, even you can tell the difference between the 19 and the 17. The biggest difference is that the 17, let me hold them this way, has a longer handle here, which allows your magazine to have more rounds. So instead of 15 rounds in a flush fit magazine, you're going to end up with 17 rounds in a flush fit magazine. Okay, and you also get a longer slide. So the longer slide also in this case means a longer barrel. The longer barrel allows a little bit higher bullet velocity, goes a little faster, because the explosion has more time to push the bullet before it loses pressure out the end of the barrel. These are the same width, and so that's something to consider as well, but same width, just longer slide and longer handle. Now, one thing that happens, particularly with these Glocks, is you can see my hand here holding it, right? One thing that happens is, like with this 43, the really small one, my hand's all hanging off here, and that's very, very normal. I wear a size large glove. I don't have massive hands. I don't wear a big double XL glove or anything, but they're decent sized hands. My hand's all hanging off, so I'm really holding on to the gun with these two fingers here and my thumb and the webbing of my hand. And so they do have little extensions you can put on magazines to give you a little bit more grip, but still, it's harder to hold on to some of these small guns than it is, say, a bigger gun. Now, also, see how my hand doesn't slide off at all? I can totally hold the whole thing. Now on this one, it's even almost perfect, right? This is the Glock 19. My pinky is on this. There's a little bit of a rise around the base here, and that is flared. It's called the flared magwell. So those are the three Glocks I want to show you. But one of the problems with Glocks, even like the 19, is if you have small hands. Like my wife, for example, she wears a women's small glove. She has very small hands. And this is just kind of hard to hold on to as well. So, and this would be, honestly even worse and feel even more awkward for her. So there are some other options, because there's a new trend in carry pistols. This is a Springfield Hellcat Pro Comp with a Vortex Defender on here. And these are kind of cool because this holds 15 rounds just like this, but look how much smaller it is in the width department, which means that hands can get around this thing a lot easier and wrap around it a lot more comfortably. And so This is an example of this. Sig Sauer makes another one that's similar to this, a 365 macro, X macro. I actually just picked this one up today. This is a Canik MC9 Prime, and it's, again, very similar to the Hellcat, where it's much more narrow, and still holds. This is a 17 round flush fit. This is a 15 round on the Springfield Hellcat, and you can just kind of see them side by side. They're fairly similar size. This one's got a little bit longer barrel, I think. You can go to something like this that has a much narrower frame, which makes it more comfortable to carry, but also it makes it easier to get a good grip on it. And there's, you know, different guns have different ways of sizing to your hand, but in general, these thinner guns provide a much better grip for many people, particularly if you have smaller hands. Now, I've shown you a lot of Glocks and some other stuff, but there's a lot of other brands out there. For example, this is a Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0. This would be very much a comparison to the Glock 19. Again, 9mm, I think this is a 15 rounder as well. And then this, if you don't want to go for the expense of a Glock, which is a great choice. You know, Glocks are great. I love them. But this is a Ruger RXM, which is essentially a clone, a copy of this. And so they're very similar in size and everything else. The only difference is that this is about $150 less. And out of the box, the trigger on this, I think, is better than the trigger on this, although this has had that resolved. And this actually has a new one of these things coming on the way as well. So this will be even better. Hold some of the guns up and bring up, you know, if you have smaller hands, bring up that you want a more narrow handgun to better fit your hand. If you have big meaty hands and you want to get a 17, that's fine. I do recommend on the semi-autos that you go with a 9mm. Again, one gun. I love my 45 ACPs, and I still have a bunch of 40 cal Smith & Wessons from back when that was a really popular round. However, if you're going to buy one, I would go with the 9mm just because it's ubiquitous, it's proven, it's got good, what they call stopping power, which is the ability to stop a target that's threatening you. And it's fairly price friendly when it comes to buying rounds to practice with, as well as, you know, police have been using it for years. I mean, it's a proven round. The military uses it, everybody uses it. So go 9mm. Pricing, you can go, you know, starting around 400 all the way up to, this was what, 650, I think, for this one. 600 with the Springfield. Anyway, pricing varies. Look around to different stores. But again, go into the store and just recognize that you're going to have to try them in your hand to see what feels comfortable to hold. If you stick with one of the major brands, for the most part, a Glock. I'm a big fan of Springfield's. The Ruger RXM is a great one. I'm a big fan of Canik's. The M&Ps, Smith & Wesson line of the Shields and M&Ps are all really good. I'm not a big fan of SIG. I know some of you guys love the P365, and that's a great pistol. Anyway, hopefully this has been helpful for you if you are making this important decision to buy your first firearm, which if you are, I'm really happy for you. Hopefully you have a great experience with it. Go to a gun store. If you have a friend who's into firearms, he or she would probably love to help you make this decision and help you through this process. If you have any questions, post comments below. If I missed anything that's super important, definitely leave a comment below. Once you get that gun, I guess is my final thought of the video before I end it. Once you get that firearm, get training. Learn how to operate it safely, learn how to operate it effectively, and learn how to operate it under stress. Because if you ever do have to use a firearm, it's going to be under a stressful, life-threatening situation. So, can't stress that enough. Get training and get good at it. With all that said, hopefully this has been helpful for you to buy your first firearm. And again, for you gun folks, if you're still sticking around, leave comments below if there's anything else that I missed that's super important. Yes, look at getting optics for it. Yes, look at getting light attachments for it. All great upgrades, but just start with the basics and get that training before you start doing other stuff to it. Anyway, hopefully this has been helpful. We'll see you next time.